for ED5981. I'm going to be focusing on a student called Jayla, whose first language is not English, and we've just learnt to use Bandscales, so I'll quickly talk about that. So using Bandscales in state schools in Queensland is to work effectively with this, and teachers should read through the descriptors to become familiar with the indicators of language behaviours. On collecting evidence, you should determine a student's Bandscale level with the collection of a range of student language samples. So different language contexts and over a period of time, and the teacher observations of language behaviours, usually focusing on one macro skill at a time. So there's listening, speaking, reading, viewing, or writing, so language skills. So teachers may have already begun collecting these as part of the identification process. So it's good to collect these primarily when a student starts schools. Many English as a second language students demonstrate greater SAE fluency in social contexts than in curriculum learning contexts where the subject matter is often unfamiliar. New knowledge and skills are being taught, and more academic or abstract language is required. It is therefore important that language samples and detailed observations are collected within learning environments and relate to curriculum content across the learning areas. These samples will more accurately reflect students' proficiency in the language of the classroom and provide the greatest insights into the degree to which they are able to assess the curriculum. The collated evidence is then matched against the band scale descriptors which relate to classroom context. So teachers can gather a range of formal and informal samples of student language in relation to the work being undertaken in class. For example, transcripts of student classroom talk, anecdotal notes on their responses to instructions and classroom talk, diagnostic testing data, drafts and final copies of written tasks. You can observe and make points about the nature and extent of possible English as a second language data, students' participation in class interactions, record speaking and listening behaviours, and conduct focused discussions with these students about curriculum being taught, and note apparent understanding and use of subject or topic-specific language and or codes switching between home and school languages. So this happens a lot. Note whether the student's SAE proficiency varies across learning areas. Variations may be due to different language demands, teaching approaches, or prior knowledge, which may indicate further investigation of language proficiency if needed. So with Jayla, so with observations of students' speaking behaviour and language analysis, I'm going to comment on the student's general ability to use and understand speaking English in various contexts. So I'm going to consider class routines. Jayla is familiar with routines, familiarity of topic. Well, what she's been introduced to is a newish topic. Needs for supportive conversation with a partner. Yes, that's good. I'll question comprehension and new subject matter. So on classroom topics, they're especially problematic, but with Jayla, she has a concrete experience of from Yarrabah, like there's a lot of dogs around. So thankfully, Jayla likes dogs, and this is not an abstract topic. And it kind of has a social purpose because a dog is a person's best friend. And Jayla loves to be read stories. When you're giving the information of this story, she can comprehend, follow instructions, She does not usually start conversations, but after the unit on mutt dogs, she would try her own short phrases, sentences on topic if I asked her questions to check for comprehension. We also comment on students' communication strategies in the classroom. It's important to consider utilising gestures, body language, mixing or switching to home language, because a lot of people do this, especially if they're tired or ill. And a lot of students don't get enough sleep these days, nor do the teachers. You could rely on, well, Jayla would possibly rely on her peers. She does have friends, but she is a bit of a loner. You should check before proceeding to see if the student needs visual cues, waiting one-to-one for familiarity. Sometimes it's good to use rote language. It builds someone's confidence. They may take risks. Jayla does like stories and she chants along and sings. Like many students, she likes a pencil sharpened. I've been in classrooms where students just sharpen their pencils all the time so that they don't have a tool to write with. Mutt Dog gets her excited. She talks in Yarri lingo. When she's spoken to slowly and she speaks slowly, she thinks and she can use the word and she uses body language gestures to convey meaning. So I kind of put her at a level 3, 4, and 5. She's definitely not 6 on the band scale. Like most children or students, they love having familiar books read to her, and she joins in readily. And she gets involved in other classroom routines. So routine is good for her. I'll just look at the band scales now. So I put Jayla with regards to listening. I put her in the beginning to understand classroom SAE. At level 3, student understands some classroom talk. And at level 4, she also undertakes some learning through SAE. So she's developing comprehension of SAE. She's starting to consolidate, but if I had to put her somewhere, I would put her at level 3 and 4, because Jayla can pick out some keywords and phrases from teacher talk on familiar topics and where contextual support, pictures or gestures are, but she comprehends best in face-to-face contact, even though ATSE people don't really like face-to-face contact. And like most people, when repetition and simplification and paraphrasing are provided by the teacher, Jayla has a bit more confidence. She comprehends and responds yes and no to routine inquiries with little difficulty. She can follow a short sequence of instructions related to familiar classroom procedures. So she understands if the teacher says, bring your book to me and show me your story. She continues to need time to process what is heard, has difficulty following simple instructions at SAE speaker speed or with background noise. So we have to try and halt the background noise and speak slowly. She has limited comprehension, although she probably knows a lot of things. She has limited comprehension of a range of grammatical features such as prepositions, verbs, verb tenses, pronouns, and adverbs, in addition to content words. She does need one-on-one assistance after teacher instruction to clarify the task when commencing a learning activity, for example, a writing task or group activities. She may rely on HL with peers for clarification around classroom tasks, and she relies on the teacher knowing they speak another language. So I suppose if she slips in Yarry talk and gets excited about the mutt story, that's a good thing, because you know that you've got her, and you could just get her to listen to more stories about something that she likes, and she'll come out of a shell, and perhaps she might even be able to write some things down. So when she's developing the comprehension of standard Australian English, level 4 is that student undertakes some learning through standard Australian English, and the descriptors are that the student comprehends with ease social standard Australian English in familiar contexts, for example, in general school context, in classroom interaction, around activities, and in playground interactions on excursions, with only occasional help given by the speaker. So Jayla does like going excursions, and you could say to her, like, if you want to go on this excursion, Jayla, could you tell me what you know of this book, or could you read some of it to me? Or could you write something down, even draw a picture? Jayla follows instructions within the classroom learning activity if explained and presented clearly. That is, with clear steps, modelling of the task, logical sequencing of steps. Well, most people, this is what they need. But she'll only often rely on further repetition of instructions on a one-to-one or small group basis. So you have to spend more time with Jayla. Perhaps you could go to a special English class. It's good to note down what she needs so that the school can get extra funding for students such as Jayla, because you don't want to take away from the learning of the rest of the class. And it's good probably for her to be accepted into the classroom and bring some of her culture stories to the class, like in a show and tell sort of sequence. Jayla continues to need time to process what is heard. She misses basic information due to levels of background noise, and she benefits from the HL helper. She requires constant scaffolding to process classroom learning, even though surface social spoken fluency suggests that such scaffolding is not necessary. Jayla needs this, otherwise she'll continue to talk in her Creole, which is the Jarrah lingo, and she may use strategies which give the impression that comprehension has taken place. For example, nodding and smiling, but she could nod and smile and she may not understand. We want to get Jayla to level 5, which is they expand their comprehension of standard Australian English and bring her up to task with everyone else. And it would be great if she becomes competent in standard Australian English, which is level 6. Student comprehends extended talk in SAE. The student comprehends easily in most social and learning contexts relevant to their own age and phase of schooling. They understand extended teacher talk at normal speed, including new topics. Lapses, which sometimes occur, generally do not affect overall comprehension. So she could get to level 6 maybe in a year. And sustain understanding of main ideas in group and whole class discussions involving more than one interaction. So this will be good for her social life too, as well as her learning. The Bandscales is a very good, important document. There's a lot in it. It's not just listening in language, there's speaking, there's reading and viewing, and there's writing. So put all those together and Jayla can become a very competent learner. She has it all inside. It just has to be brought out, and she needs to be guided as to how to express herself in standard Australian English, of which she will be examined on with her peers. Thank you.